Just 3 days ago, on July 1st, one of the biggest tech companies on the planet quietly slipped up and admitted that the entire AI revolution they have been forcing down our throats is essentially a massive, incredibly expensive illusion. Like, we all kind of knew it, let's be honest, but Meta literally just became the very first hyperscaler to publicly admit that they have quote unquote excess AI compute capacity. In plain English, that means Mark Zuckerberg and his team spent billions upon billions of dollars building out these massive, sprawling data centers packed with the most expensive microchips on Earth, firmly believing that everyone was going to be desperate to rent them out, only to turn around and realize that absolutely nobody is actually knocking on their door. It is a complete disaster, and they are now desperately scrambling behind the scenes to sell off this massive surplus of unused computer power before the rest of the market catches on. But the secret is obviously already out, because the second Meta let that slip, the entire semiconductor market violently sold off. It is the absolute clearest signal we have had yet that the trillion-dollar AI bubble isn't just threatening to pop, it is quite literally cracking right now in real time. Imagine being the executive who had to walk into a boardroom and explain that you accidentally overbuilt the infrastructure for the future of humanity. And now you have to treat thousands of high-tech servers like clearance rack items at a thrift store. It is genuinely hilarious to watch these tech giants who act like they can predict the future just completely fumble the bag on basic supply and demand. I am truly not exaggerating the sheer terrifying scale of the money being burned right now. To really understand how bad this overbuild is, you have to look at what all the major tech players are doing, not just Meta. Between 2025 and 2026, the five biggest hyperscalers, the massive cloud providers running the internet, are on track to spend over a full $1 trillion on AI capital expenditures, $1 trillion on physical data centers, cooling systems, and specialized chips. But as tech analyst Ed Zitron recently pointed out with absolutely brutal honesty, these hundreds of billions of dollars in data centers are essentially being built for no one. The actual organic demand from real businesses for all this AI power is just a tiny, microscopic fraction of what is being constructed. So who is even buying the little bit of compute that is actually being sold? Well, it's almost entirely unprofitable, hyper-funded AI startups that are only surviving because they are being artificially propped up by the exact same hyperscalers selling them the compute. It is literally just a circular money pit. The big companies invest in the small AI startups, and the startups use that exact same investment money to buy server space from the big companies. It is a completely closed loop of hype with absolutely zero real world value being generated at the end of the line. They are just passing the same venture capital dollars back and forth to make it look like there is a booming industry, while the physical warehouses full of blinking servers just sit there, aggressively burning electricity to process absolute nonsense. It is a ghost town built on top of a house of cards that at some point must come down. If this entire scenario of tech companies blindly building out massive, useless infrastructure sounds vaguely familiar, it is because we have literally seen this exact same capital destruction event happen before, almost beat for beat, back in the late 1990s during the dot-com bubble. Back then, telecom companies were utterly convinced that the internet was going to require an infinite, endless amount of bandwidth immediately. So, fueled by absolute hubris and endless investor cash, they frantically dug up the ground and laid more than 80 million miles of fiber optic cables across the entire United States. They thought they were building the ultimate digital highway for the new millennium. But when the dust settled and the bubble finally burst, the brutal reality set in. 85 to 95% of that fiber optic cable laid in the 90s remained completely dark and unused for years. It was just millions of miles of incredibly expensive glass buried in the dirt, doing absolutely nothing, representing a complete and total waste of billions of dollars. What we are watching happen right now with AI data centers is the exact same historical pattern, just appearing a little different. Instead of burying glass cables in the ground, today's tech giants are building massive climate-controlled warehouses in the middle of nowhere and stuffing them with millions of GPUs that nobody actually needs. They convinced themselves that if they built the ultimate AI infrastructure, the demand would just magically materialize out of thin air to justify the cost. But history is ruthlessly repeating itself, and the massive data centers being constructed today are destined to become the useless fiber of this era, just sitting completely idle while the companies that built them slowly bleed out money. The real reason all of this demand has completely collapsed and left these companies holding the bag is honestly the most relatable part of this entire disaster. Over the last year, every single corporate boss and out of touch middle manager was essentially peer pressured into going all in on AI. They were told by slick salesmen and hyped up tech blogs that if they didn't immediately integrate AI into every single aspect of their business, they would be left behind in the Stone Age. So companies panicked, opened their wallets, and bought into these incredibly expensive enterprise AI services, trying to force chatbots and automated generators into workflows that completely did not need them. But reality hits hard and it hits fast. Within less than 3 months of actually trying to use these systems, these exact same corporate executives ended up completely freaking out. They suddenly realized that running these AI services costs an absolute fortune in daily computing fees and tokens, and absolutely no one could actually measure or prove the return on investment. You cannot just slap a glorified autocomplete wrapper on your customer service department, watch it hallucinate fake company policies to your clients, and expect it to magically increase your profit margins. Businesses care about making money, and they very quickly figured out that paying massive monthly subscriptions for an AI that just sends slightly more articulate emails was a terrible financial decision. So they all quietly started slashing their AI budgets and backing away from the tech entirely. The corporate world woke up from the hype, realized they were being scammed into paying for useless subscriptions, and pulled the plug, leaving the hyperscalers completely stranded with their empty servers. That brings us to where we are sitting right now, watching a $1 trillion house of cards begin to structurally collapse in real time. Meta's quiet admission on July 1st wasn't just a minor corporate misstep, it was honestly a very big admission. They are the very first hyperscaler to blink, to look at the massive spreadsheets of spending versus actual revenue, and admit that the math simply does not work out. And if Meta is already scrambling to offload their excess compute capacity, you can absolutely guarantee that Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are quietly having the exact same panicked boardroom meetings behind closed doors. The entire narrative that AI is this unstoppable, infinitely profitable future has officially been shattered by the cold, hard reality of supply and demand. They built the ultimate technological future for a consumer base that fundamentally does not exist. We are about to witness one of the most spectacular, slow motion financial car crashes in modern tech history, as these massive corporations desperately try to figure out what to do with warehouses full of rapidly aging, deeply unprofitable microchips. It is a classic tale of tech industry hubris where the hype cycle moved way faster than actual human utility, and now the bill is finally coming due. It is honestly just fascinating to watch the exact same cycle of greed and panic play out over and over again. Anyway, that is the actual situation going on behind the scenes of the AI boom right now. Let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comments. Drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.